Good morning, everyone. Grant Stinchfield here. This is Stinchfield, the podcast. It is a sad and somber day. I don't need to tell all of you that. A rough day on Rumble because Charlie Kirk is, such a pillar on the Rumble network. It was a rough day for us on the radio. Salem Media, Charlie's got a show which should be doing right now on Salem Media. And then, of course, Real America's Voice, where I also work. Charlie's got a show there. So God bless Charlie Kirk's family. I pray for his kids and his wife. But I want to figure out who did this. I want to get to the bottom of who's responsible for this. And I've got a lot of theories and thoughts about it as we process the death of Charlie Kirk, the murder of Charlie Kirk, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A man killed simply for speaking his mind, simply for speaking the truth. Simply for trying to fight the indoctrination of young people on college campuses across America. I think this is what made him so dangerous to those on the left, was that he was such a likable guy. Now, I know he invoked hatred by some people on the left, but those people hate everybody. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk. They hate anybody with an R next to their name or wearing a red hat. And so you're not going to be able to help those people. But it's the people in between that wanted to listen to Charlie, that did listen to Charlie, and the hearts and minds that he changed because he was willing to go seek them out. Charlie Kirk was a great guy. He was kind. I would do, 3-4 events a year with Charlie Kirk. He'd come on either the radio program or the TV program. I would often go on his program. And so this is just a huge loss. Add this on top of 9/11. So we've got 9/11 here, 24 years later. I was there on 9/11, one of the first reporters to get to ground zero. I was working for WNBC. This day had such an impact on my life, so I'm still trying to process every year my thoughts and feelings about 9/11 and how I will never forget that day that I think changed America forever. So we'll continue to talk about all of this today, and I do want to go through the evidence that is now being collected, and there is evidence collected. There's talk of transgender ideology on the shell casings found in the shooter's firearm and the magazines. I worry this is a false flag. To me, this seems like a professional hit. We'll talk about all of this on Stinchfield today. I hate to even do advertisements. But I will tell you that the show must go on, and I think Charlie Kirk would want that. Listen to me. I have found a great way to get involved in cryptocurrency and make money off of this. This is the cryptocode.com/Grant. This is a trading algorithm, a bot that is not thousands of dollars either, by the way. Some of these bots are tens of thousands of dollars. This trading system by the cryptocode.com/Grant has a 93% success rate. I urge you to go to the website. We'll show you a video and you get a look on the inside of how this works. And then you make a decision whether you want to get involved or not. But very, very powerful because it's also about education so you don't get left behind. The cryptocode.com/Grant. This is not an easy way of making money, but it's about the easiest risk limited way of making money. As with every investment, there's risk. The FTC tells me I can't tell you it's investment advice, but I like the guys at Crypto Code. I've gotten to know them. The cryptocode.com/Grant. Please pay them a visit. Watch the video if you do. Stay tuned. They'll give you some free Bitcoin just for watching the video. The cryptocode.com/Grant. All right, with that, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So my buddy Steve Crowder got access to an internal memo from the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF. This confirms what the Wall Street Journal was reporting, that there's transgender writing on the shell casings of the shells used or were going to be used in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This is from the Denver field office of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Agents responded immediately. The suspect fired one shot from an elevated position of the rooftop, an adjacent building. We know that. This was on campus. Surveillance video shows the suspect jumping off and fleeing the area on foot. ATF and other law enforcement located an older model, imported Mauser 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus. The location of the firearm appears to match the suspect's route of travel. The spent cartridge was still chambered, in addition to 3 unspent rounds in the top feed magazine. All cartridges have engraved wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. An emergency trace has been submitted, and ATF SLC is working leads generated by the trace. The firearm and ammunition have been taken to the FBI for DNA analysis and fingerprint impressions. Upon completion of forensics, the firearm will be disseminated for additional importer information. Multiple people of interest have been contacted or detained because of eyewitness testimony. The primary suspect is yet to be identified. So this backs up what we're getting from the FBI and the commissioner of public safety in Utah, that a suspect is not captured, still on the loose, but that they have palm print imprints. They have a forearm print and a foot imprint of the footwear that the suspect was wearing. We're told there's good video, but I don't know if that means face. If they have the face of this suspect, a good, clean image of the face, it will only be a matter of time before they capture this person. If they do not have the face of this suspect, I believe this suspect could be long gone if it's a trained assassin, and there's some things and evidence to believe me and lead me to believe that this is a trained assassin. Now, an older model Mauser 30-06 is a fully capable firearm. I didn't say anything about a scope. I would imagine from 200 yards, it had to have a scope on it in order to get a, quote, head or neck shot. This is why I knew it was a long-range shot, because when I looked at the video of Charlie, it was too devastating of a wound to start to be anything but a long-range rifle. So you don't have to be a well-trained sniper in order to take that shot from 200 yards. A trained gunman with just 1 or 2 times at the range being taught how to take that shot from 200 yards with a good scope could take that shot and make it on a still target. And Charlie was virtually still. He's sitting on a stool. So that doesn't lead me to believe this assassin was trained. It's the getaway. The getaway was very, very carried out in a way that leads me that he was a professional. He disappeared into the neighborhood. The transgender writings don't necessarily tell me that this was a transgender lunatic who did this. What the transgender writings tell me is that it could be a transgender lunatic that did this, but it could also be a false flag. This could also be the group, whether it's a subversive group in America, whether it, quite frankly, is someone associated with the deep state in America, whether it's the Chinese Communist Party trying to sow chaos in America, or whether it's a jihadist. I believe the religion component of this is something to look into. Charlie Kirk was very outspoken. I do believe there's a war on Christianity in America today. That religious component could be a part of all of this. And the political divide in America, President Trump's success, a foreign group or entity trying to sow chaos in America, push us towards a civil war. Charlie Kirk would be a target. He's one of the most high-profile conservatives there is out there, if not the highest profile conservative other than President Trump. or maybe some other elected leader. I think of, and I said this on the program last night on the Real America's Voice show. I always knew I'd be reporting on this. I always knew I was going to have to open a show telling you that one of my high-profile conservative influencer friends had been assassinated. I didn't know it was going to be Charlie Kirk. I knew there was a possibility. I could have been Dan Bongino. It could have been Benny Johnson, my good friend. It could be Ben Shapiro, Dana Lash. It could have been any one of the hosts at Fox News or Real America's Voice or One America News. Fuck, it could have been myself. I don't know. But in the end, I knew it was going to happen because the left has gone so far. So my buddy Steve Bannon said, Charlie Kirk is a casualty of war. I believe that's true. I do believe we are at war with the left. Are we at a violent civil war with the left yet? That's the last thing I want. The last thing I want in this country is a civil war, but I'm going to give a warning to the left. You push us so far that you cause us to go into a civil war, and I think that's what they want, which is why we can't give that to them yet. But let me make one thing very clear. If that, God forbid, ever happened, God bless them on the other side, because they will lose. They will not beat us. There is not a chance of that. So I want discourse to be accepted in America again today. I want to offer up a message to the left that accept discourse as a valuable way to communicate and move this country forward. So what happened here makes me sad, obviously, but I'm freaking angry. I'm about as angry as it gets. This was a news conference by the law enforcement. This is the Commissioner of Public Safety in Utah. I'll play some of it because there's some interesting pieces of evidence that he found.
Through all that work last night, we were able to make a few breakthroughs. We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., the subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood. Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses, and have thoroughly worked through those communities, trying to identify any leads. We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time.
So that's interesting to me that they're not releasing the video footage of this assassin. I worry they don't have a good picture of his face. And as I said, if they don't have a picture of his face, he's going to be harder and harder to catch. If they have a picture of his face, he will be captured. But then that leads me to believe, why aren't you releasing that? If you release a picture of this guy, if you have good video footage, with the public's help, he could be captured so quickly. So something is inside this investigation why they don't want to release this information. They either have a good idea who it is and they don't want to tip him off that they know who it is, or there's a larger entity, quite possibly foreign, that is involved in this and they don't want to tip them off that they know either. But something is off, and we have to take that for what it is, that they're not releasing whatever video they have of this suspect yet.
We're working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful, we will reach out to you as the media and we will push that publicly to help us identify them. But we're confident in our abilities right now, and we would like to move forward in a manner that keeps everyone safe and moves this process appropriately. Last night I communicated with Erica. The family's devastated. As a commissioner of public safety, as a father, as a husband, I can only imagine what that family's going through. The heinous event that happened yesterday is not Utah. This is not what we're known for.
Well, it's not Utah, and quite frankly, it's not America until you look at the violent left. And the Democrat Party is the party of violence today. So whether or not this was a deranged lunatic Democrat or some subversive organization, Charlie Kirk's words is what got him killed. His boldness is what got him killed. His love of Jesus is what got him killed. His love of the Constitution is what got him killed. So I'm going to ask all of you to not cower back and start canceling events. You know, I do radio out in Los Angeles, and I'm a big fan of Ben Shapiro. And I'm a big fan of the Reagan Library. It's a great place. But the Reagan Library canceled an event with Ben Shapiro last night. That's the last thing we can be doing, especially the night before 9/11, on 9/11. When terrorists get their way, and what they want to do by killing a guy like Charlie Kirk is not just silence Charlie Kirk, but silence the rest of us. When terrorists get their way, they will continue to engage in terror. And make no mistake, this is terror. It's terrorizing to people in the conservative movement to think, you know what, we hold an event, some deranged lunatic's going to come up and shoot you. Maybe from a sniper position, maybe from someone in the crowd. I refuse to back down. And I would urge all of you out there, refuse to back down as well. The Reagan Library should have never canceled this event. You want to make a statement? Put more security on. Of all the times when people needed to gather together and come together as a conservative community, that would have been it. So I'm going to play an interview from John Guandolo, who is an former FBI agent. Counterterrorism is his specialty. And what he told me last night on the Real America's Voice show is nothing short of chilling, because it does get into the real possibility that this could go far deeper than just a transgender violent lunatic. So I'm going to play that for you in just a second. But as I tell you to be strong, as I tell you to gain strength, I want you to consider going to energizedhealth.com. Energized Health is a mind, body, soul program based in Christian principles. It's about hydration and getting hydrated at a cellular level. What that means, well, there's a master class at Energized Health, energizedhealth.com. I urge you to go watch that master class. Get yourself in shape, get yourself strong, get yourself right, lose the body fat that you need to, start building muscle mass. And this is a program for any age. There are 85, 90-year-olds that have gone through this. It's not a boot camp style program. It's not a wacky diet style program. It's a way of getting hydrated at the cellular level. So instead of your organs being raisins, they become full grapes. And what happens to your body and the changes that happens is nothing short of a miracle. EnergizedHealth.com. That's EnergizedHealth.com. Tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, John Guandolo. Really fascinating interview here. I'm going to play it for you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, John, I know it's early, and I know speculation is never great, but what do you make of this from an FBI perspective, from an investigatory perspective? Where do you go from here?
Well, so there are, basic investigative techniques that are going to be followed. And the investigators on the ground are obviously going to be canvassing for witnesses, canvassing all the videos and all that to nail down the suspect. But if I might, I'd like to back out a little bit and say my concern is what it's been for a long, long time, is that in the FBI and certainly in state and local law enforcement, there is no understanding of how to put an event like this into the broader war that America is engaged in. And that makes the investigative process very difficult, because things that would be reasonable facts that go towards reasonable suspicion and probable cause are not even being considered, and avenues are not being pursued because of the lack of understanding. And if I might, just for 30 seconds, dig down a little bit. America's engaged in a real war, and we use all kinds of things to words and phrases to define it. But there is an identifiable communist movement and an identifiable Islamic movement that are working at the ground level across the United States. Now, this is going on elsewhere, like in Europe as well. But we know who these entities are. We know who the organizations are. We know the way they do propaganda, the way they communicate. And I just put something out a few days ago on social media that this month, right now, a huge number of communist and jihadi organizations are hosting almost every day during September strategic meetings to talk about how and when to go kinetic, like mass operations inside the United States. And these are the kinds of things that precede those things. And the shooting at the Minneapolis Catholic School is also potentially one of those cascading events. But if you don't know any of that, and you don't understand these movements and the organizations that are a part of these identifiable movements, as a matter of fact and evidence, then this is just some guy who's a quote unquote conservative, hack gets shot on a college campus, and it's only a murder investigation, and it ends there. So the things you brought up at the beginning that might actually have a play in this, we don't even look there because we have no idea what this is.
All right. Certainly the FBI has gone one direction, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino trying to bring it back. They focused on right-wing extremism as the greatest threat to this nation, which was a ridiculous thing to focus on, took up a lot of agents' time. So I believe that if you were to kill someone like Charlie Kirk, a possible motivation would be, if you were an Islamic terrorist, to sow chaos in the United States. That we see what happened on the House floor when Lauren Boebert asked for prayers for Charlie Kirk, and you got Democrats booing and saying no. People on the street or at their offices arguing with each other over something like this. Do they want to spark a civil war for us, whether it's jihadists, whether it's the Communist Party of China? Could that be a possibility here? It sounds to me like what you're telling me is the answer is yes.
No, the answer is absolutely yes. The communist movement, I mean, we look at, just rewind 5 years. I've run into a lot of people, smart, I would call them patriotic people, that are not aware BLM was created by the largest Chinese Communist front group in the United States. It never was anything but that. And these other organizations, these other communist organizations like Answer and Code Pink and Unity of Fields, a Hamas organization that works directly with these national communist groups, the DSA, Communist Party USA, Revcom. I mean, it's endless. And at the ground level, they're working together. Yes, I guarantee you, Charlie Kirk, much like the operation in Butler, Pennsylvania, these are not quote unquote lone wolves. These are coordinated operations. We know that at the international level, these things are being coordinated to the point in both of these movements. Well, let me put it this way for your audience. It might even be the simplest way, is what's going on in the United States are hostile foreign powers like China, like Iran, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, are using these networks that they control in the United States to run these operations. So we keep treating this like it's a one-off, like these are wingnuts, like Democrats are just crazy and they're incompetent. They're not. They're very well organized. And the Democrat leadership is the leading edge of this communist movement. So the fact that this is not merely politics, this is a war.
Here's what I take solace in. That Kash Patel is at the helm. If anybody knows that this could be a possibility, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino do. You may have some other agents in there that are oblivious to it all, but those two guys do know that. And I hope they listen to what you're saying, because I do think this is really all a strong possibility that needs to be vetted out. John Guandolo, thank you for your service to this country as a former FBI agent, and certainly thank you for coming on the program tonight.
Thanks for having me on, Grant.
So, this is fascinating because, again, as I re-listened to that interview after having him on the Real America's Voice show last night, he said, especially during the month of September, which we're in, that they are having, these are communist and jihadi groups, strategic meetings to actively go kinetic. Now, if you don't understand that, then, as he said, this is just the shooting of a conservative. But if you understand the dynamics that you have these subversive groups that are looking to go, quote, kinetic, well, then the shooting of Charlie Kirk becomes a much bigger deal. The assassination of Charlie Kirk becomes much bigger than just a transgender lunatic shooting a conservative warrior. I believe that with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino at the helm of the FBI, there are those that are well aware of some of what could be at play here. And again, this transgender ideology written on the shell casings, more often than not, when it comes to a murder and law enforcement, it is what it is. Okay? The number one conclusion turns out to be the right conclusion. But every now and then, things aren't always what they seem. And if you were a subversive group looking to take out Charlie Kirk and you didn't want to get caught doing it, would you not write trans ideology? I mean, this is the first thing that I would put on my shell casings to send law enforcement off in another direction. These are all possibilities. I'm not saying it's truth. I'm saying it's a possibility, and it's what law enforcement has to look at as they continue to play all of this out. Reaction from lawmakers, reaction from TV hosts. Nancy Mace was great. I caught this on social media.
I'm going to say this. Democrats own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country called panicking. Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot.
Then, by that logic, do Republicans own the shooting of the two Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota? Isn't this on both sides?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm asking.
We don't know what condition Charlie Kirk is in right now. Some raging leftist lunatic put a bullet through his neck, and you want to talk about Republicans right now? No.
No, I'm asking.
No, not at all.
You said the Democrats have to own it too. But I'm asking,
Democrats own this.
But isn't there a problem with political violence across the spectrum?
Yeah, we're talking about Charlie Kirk right now. That's the subject of this that we're talking about right now. Democrats own this 100%.
Who is that guy? What an arrogant ass. Look, this is the problem with the mainstream media. They are running cover for the Democrats. You had the most prominent young political figure in America today, Charlie Kirk, shot and killed, sniped from a rooftop at a college campus in Utah, and this asshole is coming out and saying, well, what about Republicans? Republicans are not the violent ones. What, the last 5 school shootings have been carried out by transgender individuals? You look at the robbing, looting, and stealing of Black Lives Matter. Then you look at the chaos in community after community after community. It may not be political violence, but these are all people that voted for Democrats, that Democrats support, that Democrats coddle. Every piece of violence in America today is somehow connected with Democrats if you go all the way back to wacky liberal judges letting criminals out onto the streets. The Democrat Party is the party of violence. And the media doesn't see it. They see it. They're running cover is what they're doing. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. And so what do? They try to change the subject. Freaking Elizabeth Warren. Why do you go and even ask Elizabeth Warren about anything? You know what she comes out with? Gun control. I can promise you, every single one of Charlie Kirk's conservative friends, myself included, none of us are calling for gun control after this. More security, maybe. Binoculars to check the rooftop, maybe. But not gun control.
Our goes out to his family, to his friends. But we just cannot be a country that turns to violence when we disagree. We just can't.
What can Congress do about it, Senator?
Well, one thing Congress can do is gun safety. And every time there's a killing, the Republicans say this is not the time to talk about gun safety. And yet we have to.
Gun safety? Let me tell you something. Republicans are all for gun safety. They use this stupid term, gun safety, and I call it stupid only in the way that they use it. What they mean is gun control. They don't mean you going to the range and practicing gun safety or making sure that your firearm is holstered before you leave the range or that you empty your firearm inside the range before you go put it in a bag. They're not talking about gun safety. Making sure you know what is downrange of your target before you fire. That's gun safety. What they're talking about is gun control. What they're really talking about is the elimination of the Second Amendment. She's going to talk about Massachusetts here in a little bit. You tell me one law that in Massachusetts that would have stopped any of these shootings or the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Not one.
As a nation, we have more gun deaths than most other nations, and we don't keep our children, our friends, our neighbors safe by just putting ordinary gun safety rules in place. You know, I just want to say this coming from Massachusetts. If the rest of the country would just follow the rules we follow in Massachusetts, we could reduce fatalities all over this country.
Oh, yeah. How's that working for you in Boston, Massachusetts? Which is also overrun with violence, death, and destruction, and a lot of gun violence. The criminals aren't paying attention to the gun laws. The only people you're disarming are law-abiding citizens. And I don't want to talk about gun control. I'm talking about trying to find the shooter. Now, they did say it's a Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle. Can they track down where that gun was first sold? Can they track down who bought it? Maybe. Can they track down who owned it? Maybe. Could have been sold someplace along the way. A private sale. It's going to make it more difficult to track down. The firearm could have been stolen. Going to make it more difficult to track down. But, you know, Nancy Mace talked about just how awful these Democrats are. Wait until I play you this clip of Matthew Dowd. He got fired, thankfully, for this comment. But I'm going to play it for you here in just a moment. But before I do, I want to tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. I've got a Patriot Mobile phone here, 100% U.S.-based customer service. I choose which network I want to be on, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. You choose which network you want T-Mobile, you want Patriot Mobile to serve you on. So you never have to sacrifice service, and you get 100% U.S.-based customer service, which is great. And if you don't like the service, you can switch networks, all on Patriot Mobile. No other cell phone company can do that. Not to mention, the people behind Patriot Mobile are patriots like us, and they supported Turning Point USA. They were at every Charlie Kirk event you can imagine. You go anywhere, Patriot Mobile is going to be there. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number. Don't wait. Just do it, finally. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month's service. And you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. 972-PATRIOT. All right. Matthew Dowd, this mother scratcher, boy, I'll tell you what. He's got some nerve. This is him on with Katie Tur.
Talk to me about the environment in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
I have so many questions for you, Matthew Ding Dong Dowd. Thank you, MSNBC, for firing him, by the way. He deserved to be fired. First off, what thought? Can you name me a thought that Charlie Kirk has had that is hateful? Charlie Kirk doesn't spew hate. He's like the kindest warrior out there. These liberals come at him, and he answers them with factual descriptions of maybe the Bible, the Constitution, and conservative philosophy. But he never gets mad at them at all. And so I'm going to ask you, what's hateful? That he doesn't want young children mutilated because they might at the moment think they're a boy when they're a girl, or think they're a girl when they're a boy, and we want to stop genital mutilation, chemical castration from an early age to save this, what is basically irreversible. You can't reverse it. Is that hateful? Tell me what's hateful. He talks about Islam, and he talks about the truth about the religion. Matthew Dowd may say it's hateful. It's not hateful. It's based in fact and religious history. So what did he deserve to die for? And even if he was spewing hate, which he was not, your answer to that is to kill somebody? That literally, Matthew Dowd, is what you think is acceptable, but this is those on the left. They prove my point. Let me give you a little example of hateful speech from Charlie Kirk. You tell me if this is hateful. It is not.
With Western values, macro. Of course it's not. There are three major reasons why. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. Those three things are antithetical to the West. In a Muslim majority country, most Muslim majority countries, you cannot criticize the Prophet Muhammad. In most Muslim majority countries, you do not have the same robust freedom of religion protections. And finally, whereas we in the West are very careful to try to intermix religion and state, they are commanded to actually go into the state and try to change the state to be more Islamic around the core pillars of Islam. And the last thing I'll finally say is, I cannot see a single Western country that has become more Islamic and has become a better place to live that is happier or freer.
By what metric? Just happiness, quality?
Everything from quality of life, from cultural cohesion, from whether people want to live there, prior to the native-born fertility rates.
Again, people watching this will...
So, is that hateful? Is he spewing hate towards Islam? No. He gave an opinion that he doesn't see any Islamic country that has moved further and further down the road of Islam that people are happier. Now, that's an opinion, but it isn't hateful. It's not an opinion when he says Islam does not support free speech. It's not an opinion when he says that Islam wants to take over all forms of government. This is all true, and we see it. The left thinks it's hateful speech just because they disagree with it. But the left deals in falsities. The left doesn't deal in reality. And so when you deal in falsities and not reality, and then you believe falsities, and you're commanded by people like Gavin Newsom to take violent action against your opponents, you will have a subsection of the population take violent action, thinking they are a martyr, thinking they will be famous, thinking they will be held up as a hero in their community for taking out what amounts to a non-believer, which would be a Christian conservative who believes in the Constitution, God, guns, and family. So Gavin Newsom comes out yesterday with a what appeared on the face of it to be a heartfelt message, the first high-profile Democrat to denounce the violence against Charlie Kirk. But I think it's all rhetoric. I don't believe him. I don't believe that Gavin Newsom gives a rat's ass about Charlie Kirk. I think Gavin Newsom was trying to be presidential. The problem is we have Gavin Newsom's words before this, which seems to me to encourage the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
I'm sorry. I know some people's sensibilities. I respect and appreciate that. But right now, with all due respect, we're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire, and we're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth.
That sure sounds to me like war. Punch these sons of bitches in the mouth. Does that mean you take a 30-06 from a 200-yard away shot on a rooftop at a college campus? Sounds like it. You don't hear me saying we're going to go punch these bastards in the mouth. I say we got to fight, of course. I say we got to take the battle to them, but I'm not advocating for anyone to take them out. Now, I've challenged certain left-wing pundits and politicians to a cage match for charity. Let's go do professional wrestling style or UFC style or whatever you want to do, or a boxing match for charity. I've challenged, but not engaging in violence on the street against them. But this is the only way they know how to operate. And you know how I know this is true? My 16-year-old son came back and says, Dad, they can't beat Charlie in the debate, so they kill him. They can't beat him in the argument, so they kill him. A 16-year-old sees it. They're at war with us.
Like we're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Do whatever is necessary? Well, you know what that means, right? Go kill them. My God, these people are sick. I can't tell you how many emails I got, how many text messages I got, people saying they're gutted, they're torn up over this. Everybody. Except, of course, the wacky lunatics on the left. The wacky lunatics on the left not torn up over it. Why? Because they were commanded to carry out heinous acts of violence. How do I know? Just go back and listen to them.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
That's it right there, pull it up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
That was 2 minutes and 20 seconds long of Democrat leader violent rhetoric. And you tell me that they didn't want this to happen. Boy, oh boy, we're in a bad spot in this country right now. Thank God we've got President Trump at the helm. Thank God we've got strong leaders out there and strong voices who aren't going to back down. I'm proud to do my little part. I'm so proud of all of you. You guys tune in to this little podcast of mine. Maybe you'll see me on the Real America's Voice show tonight. Stinchfield's Army is very real. It wasn't as big as the Turning Point USA Army. Many of you are dual members, I know. But we got to keep it rolling. Keep it rolling in the name of Charlie Kirk, a guy who was nothing short of a truth teller.
The spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep. They got you, Charlie. They got you. But in the end, they may have killed your physical body, but they didn't kill your soul. And they didn't kill what you left behind. And that is a legacy and a library. A legacy and a library that we can go back through and listen to your teachings over and over and over again. And they will live on forever. You will see Charlie Kirk quotes and clips, I promise you, for decades to come. You know, I never thought of him as a Martin Luther King status figure. But I was wrong on that. I think Charlie Kirk is a Martin Luther King status figure. He wanted unity in this country. He wanted common sense in this country. Like Martin Luther King, he embraced the teachings of Jesus Christ, and he knew how important it was for this country to embrace those teachings. He was kind-hearted, yet he was a fighter. He was a warrior. And you know, Martin Luther King was too. And Martin Luther King maybe was just as divisive as Charlie Kirk was, because the words they both preached were so dangerous to those that wanted to bring this country down. So yeah, I think Charlie Kirk is a Martin Luther King type figure. And you see that from the outpouring of support for his wife and his kids and his family and his legacy. Same type of outpouring of support that you saw in Martin Luther King, or even a JFK when he was assassinated. Charlie Kirk could have been president of the United States. He was 31 years old. He had the world ahead of him. He's decades younger than I am. I'm 56. The man was 31 years old with a record of success that doesn't come often to someone at 31 years old. He was special. And they killed him. They killed him because he was so special. And his mind was so powerful. And he had an ability to change the hearts and minds of others. And when you have an ability to change the hearts and minds of others to your foes, that makes you one of the most dangerous individuals in the world. And Charlie Kirk paid a price for that. But I will always hail him as an American hero. And you should too. I got sponsor things to do. It just doesn't feel right doing them. I feel somewhat like this.
You know that it's somewhat object of mockery to say thoughts and prayers, but thoughts and prayers for his family. They need it from all of us. And Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was the message. I believe that was the message. It's really hard to radicalize Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're not the radical type. But if you thought that you were going to shut a movement down, you're going to get a rude awakening. You woke us the fuck up.
And we will.
How else do you put it? I know many of you were already well awake. But this is a turning point. It's amazing. That name of his organization is prophetic. Because I think Charlie Kirk's death is now a turning point in America. And what are we going to do when we come to this turning point? Where do we take the country? How do we fulfill his legacy? This turning point in American history, with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we've got to take the right turn. And we've got to fight to get through it. Every blockade they put up, we fight and push through it. And we will. I have no doubt about that in my mind. Folks, my friends over at the Wellness Company are also great patriots. They also supported Turning Point USA in many respects. I've talked to some of the doctors over there who are just as torn up as all of you are about what happened. twc.health/grant is the website. And I urge you, because, you know, in many respects, this is a lesson about preparedness. Though I don't think Charlie ever saw this coming or would have seen it coming, the actual bullet. They want you dead. As I said, they're going to get you. But he was about preparedness. And the Wellness Company has this emergency medical kit. I've got one here. It's got the prescription medications in here to keep you and your family safe. If you're thinking about family now, make sure you have one of these kits on hand, because there are prescription medications in this kit that can save a life. There's ivermectin in here as well, amoxicillin, a Z-Pack, a whole slew of things. twc.health/grant. Be prepared. Life is so short. You'd rather have that kit on hand and never need it than need it and not have it, and you got drugstores closed down because of some hurricane or a tornado or, God forbid, a terrorist attack. Have it and not need it. But know you have the peace of mind that you can help your family or yourself in times of need. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. You know, maybe we play one more clip of Charlie Kirk.
You a Christian by any chance?
Very, very much so.
Like, why is that exactly?
Jesus saved my life. I'm a sinner, gave my life to Christ, most important decision I ever made.
So you believe the Bible is real?
Yes, I believe the Bible is true and real. Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I could give you the technical answer. There's never been an archaeological discovery that has contradicted the truth of the Bible. And then, of course, the wisdom. There is not a truth of the Bible that if you apply to your life does not improve dramatically. And then finally, we have the most accurate and transparent, historically robust account that one can have of the most important figure ever to live in the history of the world, Jesus of Nazareth. And the resurrection is the pinpoint of my belief that Jesus did rise from the grave so that we may live.
What makes Christian mythology real?
So that's not mythology, but that is theology. If Genesis 1:1 and the resurrection is true, anything in the Bible is possible. You're looking at the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle is creation. And then the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. And I say, how do you know that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, show me another historical piece of a story where so many people willingly died a brutal death for a lie. Every single person around him had everything to lose, and yet they went to the absolute death, from Paul to Peter to the half-brother of James, saying that Jesus is Lord, Jesus rose from the dead. Not to mention, if you were going to fake a story, you would not use female witnesses in the ancient world. In the scriptures, it said that the women were the first one to see Jesus Christ. If you're trying to fake a story, you would never do that.
May God rest the soul of Charlie Kirk. Hug your family members today. Life is short. He's a good man. He'll be missed, and I'll miss him a lot. No need to go on any further. Make a donation to Turning Point USA. I'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight. Don't forget about September 11th. May God rest the souls of everyone who died that day and their families who still deal with that tragedy. I think about them every day. And it's a rough day today. But I'm proud of all of you. We handle it. The human spirit's amazing. It really is. The human spirit will help you get through anything. Things that you never thought you're going to be able to get through, you manage to get through. That human spirit comes from God. It really does. And I'm a firm believer of that. And I take solace in that fact. And I know that Jesus is watching over Charlie Kirk's family. God bless all of you. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thank you. We'll see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show.